Happy New Year, YouTube! Robin Hood Bricks here, and thank you very much for a very successful 2023, all of your wonderful support. Now let's get on to today's build, which is train-based, lovely, and is a challenge that I received just the other day. Yes, so I was going to start a project to fill a long, empty area of Brick Nottingham, probably the longest actually, that I really needed to get round to. But instead I got distracted by this wonderful challenge from the Ventura County Rail fan, who just the other day said, "I challenge you to make a Foundry train car, the ones that hold lots of molten metal." There are tons of photos. Well, I've never heard of it. I don't know much about trains, I always say, but Google has, and it's also called a torpedo or ladle wagon, and basically it carries molten iron from a smelter to a foundry for casting and using and so on. So yeah, I've looked at all the pictures, which mainly come from Model Railway, of this sort of long, very heavy vehicle with a gap in the middle for the torpedo full of the molten metal. And basically that has that gap in the middle so it can rotate for emptying, because you don't get a shovel and scoop that molten metal out. You basically pour it because it's liquid and can be used straight away afterwards. So yeah, I thought that is a brilliant idea. It really got my creative juices going, and I abandoned the project that I was going to be doing and focused on that instead. And then I started looking for videos of one, and I could only really find a video of it in Model Railway format, and that's here from Hover Motion. Hopefully they don't mind me borrowing a section of their video, and you can kind of see it rotating here as it goes along, presumably to keep all of that molten metal from setting, kind of like a concrete or cement wagon as well, which we've already done, of course. But this thing actually does strike two birds with one stone, because I've also had a previous challenge, which I've kind of parked for a while, to do a Schnabel car. I think that's how you pronounce it. And what a Schnabel car is basically kind of two ends of wagons that are joined together by the actual cargo itself. So you can see in this picture here a Schnabel car where there's a great big generator which basically has a bogie setup bolted to each side of it, and it actually becomes part of the train itself. So this basically does two birds with one stone, two challenges for one, with the torpedo being the bit that actually links together the two kind of bogie ends that turn in that very clever way. So yeah, really good to get going on this. So in order to accept this challenge, I think I have to set what my design criteria are. It's basically got to be 6 studs wide maximum, just because of the tunnels in my city being 8 wide. Also, with it being quite long, it's going to have to go around the corners of my track without hitting any of the nearby obstacles which I've already got in. So that's probably going to be the hardest thing, actually. Well, actually, no, maybe the hardest thing is having that circular spinning motion of the torpedo, because that looks, well, not too complicated. I think I know how I'm going to do it, but you know, it has to work at the right speed and be reliable and look good, because it could be quite heavy. I don't know. So anyway, I love challenges like this. So let's strike the iron while it's hot, pun intended, and get going. Good, good. Well, I've done several train wagons before, of course, that also harness the power of the wheels going around, change its direction into powering some sort of motion in the superstructure for our amusement. A simple one is just turning it 90 degrees to have some vertically spinning flames in the top of my toxic vats on my toxic transport wagon. Another one transfers it about 45 degrees less to make the cement mixer spin on its axis going around and around. A different one just with it bouncing up and down is powering the space hopper one, of course, and then a completely different mechanism is powering the big hoop of the acrobat wagon as well, and I've probably forgotten one. So we've done this quite a few times already in variation, but never powered from both ends in unison. Now, one that I've also done that I never actually released was this one, which is also a suggestion from subscribers, but essentially it hasn't made it to the full cut. It's done in rainbow brick here, but essentially it's an aquarium wagon. Not that that thing really exists in real life, but essentially we were going to have the motion of the train powering, first of all, a little shoal of fish going round in a circle, and then secondly, two independent fish swimming in their own merry way. And that's quite good. I'm quite happy with the mechanism, but essentially they sweep out quite a large arc, each of them, with a limited space involved. And that means there's just no real room for any rocks or plants or anything like that. So, well, that's it really. And although I can change the colour of that bar piece there, conceal the gears to a degree, that is literally all you're going to see going around the track. So I didn't think that was really good enough, but maybe you can come up with an idea to make this one better as well. But anyway, it still always uses the same principle on the underside, in that this axle would have the two train wheels attached to it, and that would power this beveled gear in this sort of gearbox piece, and then that powers a horizontal beveled gear that transfers the motion upwards. So that's the principle we'll use again. And here's another one of those gearbox pieces with the wheels attached this time. I pilfered them from there. And that is turning that beveled gear. Then we can get another one, just as we did before, in there and kind of pin it down from above by putting some spaces in. I think I would use another one of those smaller beveled gears in the final build, but this is just to show what I'm talking about, and also because I haven't got many of the smaller ones. I might have to pilfer some from my 20,000 bricks under the sea, but you can see here now that is transferring that motion to the vertical axis, 90-degree turn basically. But on this one we need to turn it another 90 degrees up here now so we can spin that great big torpedo. So essentially, yep, you guessed it, I'm going to get another one of these gearbox pieces, maybe put that right on the top like that, and then this time we can have a beveled gear, oh yes, on there, same axis going into another one here, and then have this one powering this axle there. So now when I turn the train wheels, not only does it turn the yellow axle that's vertical, but you'll see it also is turning that red one another 90-degree turn. So we've gone from this motion to that motion to that motion by way of two 90-degree turns. And, well, that's the motion I can have on both ends of my new wagon. So if we're going from left to right on here, you'll see that's turning away from us at the top. And on the other end, because it will be going in the exact opposite direction, it will be turning away from us as well. So that works perfectly to have one on either end and have the power on both sides. Because I figure if one side is powering it and the other one is just kind of supporting it, then maybe it will be a bit sticky or not work as well when it's going around a corner or something like that. But by having the same mechanism and doing the same direction of turn with the same direction of travel on each end, it's going to make it a lot more even and a lot more reliable. So yes, I need to make two of these. Though having said that, this isn't going to work on anything other than a straight line as it's currently set up because, well, nothing turns. So when this starts going around a corner and the other one hasn't yet, they're going to be completely unaligned and the whole thing's going to have to snap or bend in the middle. So that won't work at all. So what I'm going to have to do is add another kind of layer in between all of this sandwich here. And essentially I'm going to do that by way of one of these 4x4 turntable plates with a round 4x4 plate attached on the top. And that can go over there because it's got a hole in the middle. And then we can attach this back on here. Like that. Put the bevel gear back on. And then this can move, but still get powered whichever direction it's facing. So if I have that going around the corner, it can still maintain any angle of connection and, well, we'll transfer the pulling power of the train throughout because we're going to have more carriages attached behind it, of course. So that is what we're going to do. Though I think I can make this whole setup a lot more condensed and reduced quite easily. So yeah, that's what I'll focus on next. Now, I must admit, I absolutely adore doing these challenges, which is why I leapt straight on this one when it kind of took my fancy. Solving each of the problems that presents itself is really good fun, if you ask me. And another one has raised its ugly head, actually, and that's the fact that this thing is going to spin far too quickly. As it's set up at the moment, each spin of the wheel on the track is going to cause one turn of the axis on the top. And that is far too quick if you think about it. That torpedo that's supposed to be really heavy and full of molten metal is going to be spinning at a rate of knots going around our track, getting faster as the train gets faster. So I really need to gear it down, make it a lot slower. And I think ideally it'd be very, very slow indeed, even slower than in that model railway video. But essentially that's only going to be possible with the right pieces in Lego. So I think as long as I gear it down just a little bit, it'll be improved. So what I'm going to do is use the only other beveled gears that I actually own, which I've actually had to pilfer. I've got a black one from one end from my multi-storey car park in my city, which I'll have to replace in due course, and this one that I've stolen from the 20,000 Bricks Under the Sea cabinet, and that's just so I can do a slightly different mechanism rather than the one we had, and that's going to be mounted on a 6x6, still within our width parameters, round plate instead. So we've still got that axis coming up there. Then I'm going to use this smaller one on there, horizontally now, to match up with this one, which I will mount via way of a Technic brick to the horizontal there. So that is going as the other one did. And now we've got, I think it's something like 12 teeth going into something with 20 teeth. So it's roughly 2 to 1. So that means for every spin of the wheel on the track, we're getting half a turn of the torpedo. So that's about as good as I can do. And if I have that on both ends, I think it's small enough that I can still house it and conceal this mechanism with decorative bricks a lot easier than using one of the really big ones that's possible to get, that would not only make each end very lumpy, but would be raising the whole mechanism, because it would have to go from this height upwards up to about here, and then a torpedo would just be far too high in the air. So I think this is a good compromise for the level of realism that we'll need in a Lego city. So yes, that's that solved. So I can get rid of all those bits. Then I just need to make the rest of the bogie, really. So we're going to need another set of wheels. And rather than use 2 more of these loose ones, I figured I'd just use the normal sort of setup. So I can put some more rainbow plates on there and a set of buffers. And then essentially, which side shall I add that to? Over here. And then we've got essentially a bogie with our mechanism on the top. And if I drive that around, yes, you can see it on the beveled gear. It's moving very well indeed. So I just need 2 of those, and then I can focus on the torpedo itself. Now, there aren't that many bricks that are appropriate for this, and I definitely don't have the 4 sort of halves that I'll need, but I do have 2 of the halves that I think I'm going to use, which are these sort of half dome pieces in probably an inappropriate bright yellowish orange. But you can get them in a few different colours as well. So I'm going to experiment with these and just pretend that I've got 4 of them, but just kind of make half of our torpedo, because I think it's roughly the right sort of scale. If you think about that, with a bit in the middle and then another one over here. You don't want it too long, otherwise it really won't go round corners, because the torpedo will be kind of bridging between the 2 bogies, of course. So I think that's right. And other pieces that are in my collection are at least 8 wide, like the bottom of the Friends spinning chair ride, for example. So yeah, I quite like this. So what I need to do is basically make a torpedo with that, and then think of a great way of joining these 2 anti-stud bits together that's very secure. And it has to be very secure, because obviously we're going to have the full weight of the train being transferred through this section because of its Schnabel load kind of concept, that this is actually part of the train, not something that's just sat on the top. Whew, so yes, I'm going to have to get creative with something very strong indeed using these. Right, well this build is a prototype, so I'm going to be using rainbow brick, and for the central section I'm going to use a lot of these round plates with the cutout. They're 6x6 and they allow an axle to go through the middle, of course, so that's really important. And I'm using 3 like this, so I can have another 3 like that that'll interlock with it back to back, and I can join the 2 halves together using these bracket pieces in the gap between. So if we think about that and get a duplicate, we can put them back to back like that. So we've got some facing one way and some facing the other, and then the 2 bracket pieces line up in the middle, and I can use some hot pink 2x2 tiles to join those 2 together and these 2 together and make a kind of disc that is absolutely inseparable. I mean, that is really hard. I think no one would be able to break that at all. And so I can join 2 axles together in the middle of this. I'm going to have a kind of skinny connector that I'm going to kind of force into the gap in the middle. It is a very tight fit, probably slightly illegal, but there you go. That's going in there. Then onto the outside of that, I'm going to have a slightly different section that is going to centralize that axle in the right position using that Technic plate and a few of these with another bracket piece for the outside for a bit of decor. So that should fit into that gap. Let's see, like that. Oh, there we go. And a bit of texture for the outside, given the variation of these circles. And then that like that. And that means I can have the hole stuck on here with a tile or something like that to represent the hole that all of the molten metal will be coming out of, and that'll also give it a bit more strength as well, actually. So that's good, apart from the fact that we're using random colours. Very nice. And then I should be able to get the second one of these Technic axles into there. There we go. So I reckon that's pretty solid, but to make it even more solid, I'm going to add a round brick on there and a round brick on there. Those colours don't matter because they'll be in the middle of this kind of torpedo. Then we can add our lovely pieces, and I'm going to add just one on each side basically, so it's kind of like a cross section. We'll see this spinning and we'll be able to see inside it and how it works and how it's put together, but in the real one obviously we'll have 4 quarters on and it'll be completely enclosed, and then I can hold it on even more with a couple of round plates as well. So that is my indestructible unpull-apartable, if that's a word, torpedo, and that means I can attach that by way of this, and I need a little spacer on here to our 2 bogies, and then we can test it around Brick Nottingham, because at this point I suppose my biggest concern is how many things is it going to hit as it goes around my city, which is kind of fine if it's only a few little things, because I can always move them a little bit or, you know, accommodate this, but when it goes around a corner, this is going to be bridging the gap, and I hope it doesn't hit another train going around the different tracks. So here we are, my 2 bogies made in the same way, slightly different colours at the moment, but that can go and link up with that one on there, and that can go and link up with that one on there, and then well, it works on the desk. Look at that. Spinning to keep that molten metal molten. I like it. It's very long, but it will go around a corner. Let's simulate a corner. There we go. Still spinning. I like it a lot. So yeah, I think that's about the right proportion, isn't it? Nice sort of mainly a torpedo, but also with the 2 bogies. And also, I can actually flip these around a little bit. I'll have to take the buffers off and stick them on the other side and make it a bit more condensed, actually, because that's possibly a little more true to life where it overhangs some of the bogie, because this is a bit, well, arguably too long. But anyway, we'll try it both ways round in the city. Well, who should we choose to pull it? Should we have the beast? All right, well, up in the Lego room in Brick Nottingham, and I've placed it on the track in pretty much the only position where we can really see it for any distance. And, well, it works. I can drag this along by hand and it spins perfectly, including around the corners, without much effort, actually. So I'm really hopeful for this. So I've got the beast just separated from the rest of the train to come in and take its cargo. Huh. And hey, there we go. Oh, it's going around. It's skidding a little bit on the bogey there. You can see it's sort of tipping up, it's sort of bouncing up, and I think that's that point I mentioned with the fact that it's not very balanced on either end. So I think it will work better turned inwards. I'll do that as my second test. But yeah, that's working really well at the moment. Hoo-hoo! Yeah, let's flip that over. Yeah, that's a lot more stable with the bogies reversed. I can see that it's got better support on both ends when I move it by hand. So we've got the regular train wheels on the inside and then the power wheels on the outside. So I can bring back in the beast to pick up his cargo once more. And a bit more welly. Yeah, it goes round the corner. And if we go forward, because the rest of the train is still on the track, you can see it going. And wow, that motion is really good. Oh, it made it round that corner all right without hitting anything. It made it through the underpass, and it's made it round there, where I'll have to stop it or it'll hit the rest of the train. Let's go backwards as well. I think this is a successful test. It's definitely working. Oh, looks like it's going to hit something, but then doesn't, which is kind of how I like it. And arguably, it is spinning far too fast. But I think that will look less obvious when we've got the other two sort of halves of the torpedo on there. But, yeah, maybe we could slow it down a little more with a bigger beveled gear. But I really don't want to raise it off the track and make it look a bit more stupid. So, yeah, I think that is about right. And we'll just have to get used to it spinning at a ridiculous rate, unless you can think of a way of beveling it down a lot easier in a tighter space. But yeah, that is really good fun. I like it a lot. I think we've got a new train wagon on the way. I'll have to buy all the parts to make it look nice as well. It's going to be really good fun styling it to look very industrial. Oh yes, that mechanism's perfect. Love it. Yay! We have a fully functional prototype. Yeah, the rotation's a little quick if we're honest, but it works and it looks really cool, or at least it will do when I finish the rest of it. I think there's quite a bit I can do to simplify each of these bogies, make them closer to the ground, make them a lot shorter in that direction, and then add, well, loads more interesting colours to it. These are available in dark blue, so I think that's the colour scheme that I'm going to be going for. Kind of industrial, a bit different from everything else I've done. And then there's kind of a big, well, structure on each end where the motors are in this thing to not only attach it, but power it so it can be emptied and so on. So yeah, lots to do, a bit of controls, bit of stickers, and it'll look absolutely amazing. Maybe even some hazard stripes and tread plates, you never know. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that as a part 2, but I'm going to have to do the order to get those parts first. But yeah, prototype working. But then there is an absolute calamity to add to this story. Basically, I read a bit more about these torpedo or ladle wagons, as they're sometimes called, and well, from what I can glean, it seems that they only actually rotate once, basically to empty out the molten metal. They aren't constantly spinning while in motion. And if you think about that and the vast weights involved, well, that kind of makes sense, I suppose. But then what was going on in that video from Hovermotion then? That was definitely spinning as it was going along. I don't know if that was glitchy or if he was just demonstrating the functionality of it. So what might be the case now is I've actually invented a rail wagon that doesn't actually exist, a thing that spins horizontally the whole time, which is so disappointing. I spent a whole day doing this. It'll cost me £16, I've worked out, to buy the parts to do this fully decked out and all the rest of it, and that's not including the parts that I've already used. I don't know what to do now, so I need your help, essentially. Maybe we should invent a story where this needs to spin, because it's covering longer distances, perhaps, like going around my city endlessly on a loop, for example, just to keep that molten metal going. Or maybe we should just abandon it as an experiment gone wrong. I don't know. So yeah, you decide. Tell me what I should do. Should I spend that extra £16 and have the first constantly spinning torpedo Schnabel wagon in the world, or shall I just call it a day like I did with that aquarium wagon as well? Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a quandary. I can't believe that I've spent this long and got so excited about something that doesn't actually exist. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section, and then when the parts arrive, if I get the thumbs up, we'll do a part 2 and make the final thing a reality. Do also let me know if you can think of a way that I can do the bevels even more in a very tight space. It has to be really quite small. And do let me know if there's something that you think we can do with this to salvage something out of it, or just continue as we were, but just finish it off maybe without the rainbow brick. It might look a lot better. Who knows? So yes, lots of contributions required from you this week, but I'm really, really happy on one hand to have done the challenge set by the Ventura County rail fan, but also a bit disappointed in that I'm much less in love with the product as a result now that I found out that horrendous fact about real life. So yeah, it doesn't spin the whole time. Who knew? Well, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas period and will have a very successful and prosperous new year as well, one and all. Thanks again to all of the support that I've received over the last year for comments and for memberships and Patreon members and so on. You really make projects like this possible because it's your contributions that pay for all of the orders that make all these fabulous builds. So thanks again for that. Long may it continue. I'm thinking of doing a Q&A with Mrs. Hood soon. Don't do any questions for that in the comment section to this. I'll do a post and you can put your questions under that and then she'll pick those, so I don't know what's coming. And it just leaves me then to say thank you very much for watching today. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, you can join those supporters by clicking on one of the links below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, it'll be a Wednesday, so we'll be doing a New Year brick haul. We've got loads of projects lined up for future city and cabinet videos. I want to continue on with the pyramid, get that finished on the biscuit of the 20,000 bricks under the sea. And I also want to get that new build that was going to be today's video, filling probably the longest empty area of the city with a nice new building with good links with other bits, 3D signs and everything else. So yeah, look forward to all of that coming soon. So until then, see you. Such a cool mechanism, but so disappointing.